I don't know, I was kind of lost after that again too. I'm like, now what do I do?
Wow.
So yeah. And then I just like kind of was desperate. I was like, I need any job. And
on the 19th episode of 18th Avenue Podcast.com, my guest this week is award-winning artist who is breathing new life in the city with her painting. She uses conspicuous, vibrant colors to evoke life in her art. Before the awards, before she was Sydonne Artiste, she was Sydonne Warren. In high school, she wanted to be a psychologist, but soon discovered she didn't like math. Raised by a single mom in Calgary, Alberta, Sydonne and her mom came to Canada when she was just 3 years of age from Jamaica. After high school, while her friends took off to colleges around the country, she held on to a retail job as a store manager. Dissatisfied with her retail work, Sydonne did a 2-year architecture program but could not find work and was back to square one. It wasn't until she met her husband of now 4 years when he told her, "You are an artist, go and be an artist." That simple but crucial advice has made Sydonne the artist we know today. Here are some of the things we discuss in this episode: networking, landing her first pay gig, how she met her incredible husband, her advice on marriage, mentorship, and pricing your work accordingly. If you like this content and would like to support the channel, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Facebook, and IG account. By the way, this is a 2-part episode which will be released on Sundays and Tuesdays. But if you can't wait and would like to hear it now, head to 18avenuepodcast.com for the audio edition. Here now with Sydonne Artiste. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of 18th Avenue Podcast. I am your host, Rico Bottles, and today joining me here is my very special guest.
Hi, my name is Sydonne Warren. I'm on Instagram as Sid the Artist. I'm a visual artist and student at Alberta University of the Arts.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This is such an incredible moment to see a person like you doing what you're doing. In fact, where I want to start off is to just go into, let's go into a little bit of your background. You can let us know where you're from and things like that.
Okay, well, my background, I was born in Jamaica, Jamaica, and I was raised there until I was 3, and then I moved to Canada with my mom, and I've been in Calgary ever since then.
That's pretty awesome. What was it like? You were 3 years old, so there's clearly not a whole lot, but what has your experience been like just growing up here in Canada?
Growing up, I definitely feel lucky and privileged to be able to grow up in Canada. Mm-hmm. I know that like my mom's generation and generation before that went through difficult times, and it was kind of a struggle. So I just acknowledge that I am in a place that's, provides privileges for me. So yeah, that's
pretty awesome. As I was saying to you before the camera came on, is that my family have been here since like 97. And us growing up in like a very small town, St. John's, Newfoundland, being one of the first Black families out there, it was cool. But at the same time, it was like, this only me and my family, and maybe another family. Did you ever kind of feel like that? Where? Interestingly enough for me, I was usually like, maybe the only Black kid in the class, maybe one or two of us. So when I went to school, like I definitely noticed that. But I also grew up in church too. So, and it's a Jamaican church. So it's like pretty much all Black people. Okay.
So I had like this environment where like everyone looked like me and we had a lot of similarities.
Right.
And I had like a lot of friends from there, and I still have those friends. So I've always had kind of like, I guess, two sides. So like the side of just being like the only Black person and then being amongst like people like myself. So yeah, it's a good balance.
But then you could always get away from that class environment and go somewhere like you were saying.
Yeah, like on the weekends, it's like, okay, I'm with, my own people. And
right.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of belonging there.
That's cool. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood. Not like super when you're super, super young, but like, how was like your overall upbringing?
Overall, I'd say I don't know. I think my mom did like a really good job raising me, and like she was really good example for me. She was really hardworking. She's a single mom. I was an only child, and we lived with my aunt, and it was just the three of us for the longest time. I went to school, did fairly well in school. I was a good student, and I don't know what else to say about.
No, that's pretty cool. That's also like very common too, because I come from a single mother background as well. Except there was so many of us, so sometimes it's like, my brother could be the father today, and then someone else be the father tomorrow, right? So, just coming from like that background, so I totally understand. What's like some of the earliest lessons that your mother passed on to you?
I think one of the things that's always kind of stuck with me was just like how hardworking she was. Like, she had the weekends off when I was a kid, but then she became a nurse assistant, and then she's like still now just always working hard, always like independent, and that's something that kind of stuck with me. Like she showed me through her actions. And she has really good morals too. So, I just get that sense of conviction too. And like, I think, what would my mom do, or what would my mom think? And so she passed that down to me.
I can totally relate to that, because my mother too, being just like a single mother, she had to kind of do what she needed to do to get out of us here in this country, in this foreign land, and give us the opportunity to grow up somewhere else and learn new culture and in an entirely new environment. So I think shout out to the mothers out there for their sacrifices.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask you here, and going into your artistry now and what you do.
I can't say that. I can say like when I was younger, I was always drawing, doodling. I loved creative things, but I don't think I took it seriously. Like in my own mind, I was just like, oh, this isn't like a practical job. I didn't think of it as a job. It was more like something I did in my spare time. So I would draw and practice all the time, but I never took it into like consideration of like becoming an artist when I was older. I think I went through like a lot of different career paths that I wanted to choose. And art kind of became my main thing after I had graduated high school, and I was like really confused about like what direction I wanted to go into. And I saw like...
Was this something that you always wanted to do? Did you always want to be a visual artist?
I can't say that. I can say like when I was younger, I was always drawing, doodling. I loved creative things. But I don't think I took it seriously. Like in my own mind, I was just like, oh, this isn't like a practical job. I didn't think of it as a job. It was more like something I did in my spare time. So I would draw and practice all the time, but I never took it into like consideration of like becoming an artist when I was older. I think I went through like a lot of different career paths that I wanted to choose. And art kind of became my main thing after I had graduated high school, and I was like really confused about like what direction I wanted to go into. And I saw like all my friends like just knowing what they wanted to do and going into that. And I felt super lost. And I just remember like when like Instagram came about, I would like see a lot of artists posting, and maybe remember like, hey, I can draw and I really like drawing. And I started back drawing, and I just consistently kept practicing and just like teaching myself. And from then I started to take it seriously, and I could actually see myself being an artist. And it never stopped until now I'm at the position that I'm at. So
I think that's pretty incredible. Was that like the moment? Was it like a specific moment where you sat there and was like, yo, I can do this? Like, what was that moment like?
I think it was like, honestly, like that Instagram is so key.
It was Instagram.
Like, it's really,
Okay.
Cause I was like, I saw people who are local and like, this is what they did. And I was like, oh, this is like possible. So then I just like, honestly, I started off posting my first drawing, And then everyone was like, what is that? So I know I need to put some more work in, you know? And yeah, I just like kept going after that.
Yeah. When you know, just going back, and I like what you said there, when the people are like, what's that? Who was the first person that you show your work to that sort of became this pitler, this encouragement to you, to push you?
I would say like, okay, my mom is always supportive, and I have this one friend named Noreen, and she's like always like super encouraging. Anything I do related to art, anything in general, she's like always like my biggest fan. So yeah, I said she's my biggest fan all the time.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. You mentioned that you've taken so many paths before you got into drawing and taking it seriously. What was some things that first came to you out of high school and thought that maybe I could go and do that?
Yeah, I think, okay, when I was in high school, I actually first I wanted to be a psychologist, and then they had like career day, and the psychologist came, and I fell asleep. So I was like, oh, this is terrible. So, and then they had a guy that did like financial planning, and and like, he was just so like charismatic, and I was like, oh, this sounds awesome. And then I started like focusing my studies on that, and I took some classes, like all my options were like finance related. But then I discovered I don't like math, so that's not going to work out for me.
Okay.
So yeah, but by the time I realized that, it was like my last year in high school. So I'm like, okay, now what? So I really had to like take, you know, those online career quizzes and all that.
Right.
And then they had some suggestions for me because I liked like creating and art, and then I decided on architecture. So I went to SAIT from 2013 to 2015, and then I got my architectural technology diploma. But yeah, I didn't end up actually going in that career path because there was no jobs. It was a recession at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and then I don't know, I was kind of lost after that again too. I'm like, now what do I do?
Wow.
So yeah, and then I just like kind of was desperate. I was like, I need any job, and I started working retail again, and like that was really, I think, the last straw for me, where I was like, I don't think I'll do any job unless it's art related, because like yeah, if you're not passionate, it's like, man, what am I doing this for? Like,
right.
Yeah. So
did you ever feel, because I know this used to happen to me a lot of the time, even to now, you know, I work in the oil and gas field. So it's like, you know, being a safety officer in that field. But one of the things that, you know, even when I'm at work and I'm like, yo, what am I doing here? Like, you ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
But there has to be like for me, I know like there was that moment where I decided, okay, cool. When I leave this project, I don't care what happened. I probably want to be back for another year, because I had other plans to get this going and everything.
Yeah.
What was that like working in that field? And were you able to transition sort of easily? How did you find yourself from that point on to saying, I got to get out of here? Because it's pretty hard when you have regular money coming in to like no money coming in.
That's the thing. The money wasn't bad because I was in management. So that was
there. You have it.
I was like, oh man, I want to give this up. And then I was planning, because I was getting married that year. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take my vacation, and then I'm just going to give my 2 weeks before my 2-week vacation. And I just never come back. But a month before that, I just got fed up and left. And
wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, my husband was like a big encouragement for that. He was just like, don't go back and stop doing stuff that's not art related.
Right.
And since then, like, he always kind of keeps me on track. He's like, you're an artist, like, stop. Because sometimes you're like, I need money, like maybe I should do this. He's like, nah, you're an artist. Like,
go be an artist.
Yeah.
Stop being what you're not.
Yeah.
I think that is so important, to have someone there who recognizes like what you are and where you want to go, who sees that value before the world get to see it. I mean, now people can celebrate you because they can see, but what they don't know is that backstory, that struggle.
Yeah, there's a struggle there. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Speaking of your husband, since you brought that up, how did you guys meet?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, in the beginning, I told my mom we met at Starbucks because, like, that was where we met.
Okay.
We met online, Plenty of Fish. So
Plenty of Fish?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, one of my friends, like, I had met her boyfriend there, and then they've been together for a while, and then she's like, yeah, Plenty of Fish is so good. So she convinced me, and then I joined. And like, yeah, by the next day I met my husband and like
On Plenty of Fish.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
And we were just talking and we met up and we were just like, after that we just delete our accounts and we're like together since
Okay.
then. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is meant to be. Like literally the next day.
So you created your account today and you would meet him the following day.
Yeah, like talking online the next day. And then we had so much in common,
Right.
like similar background and like, yeah, just so much in common. We just got along really well. And then we met up, later on, like a few days later.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah. I find that you can have a lot of things in common, but I also think that there has to be like that core value in somebody that stands out from everyone else. Because a lot of people you meet, you have something in common with him. We're all human, so we do similar things all the time. What was that core value in him that you knew that, okay, he's different, he might be the one, or he is the one?
Yeah. I'd say like, I guess one of our first conversations, I think it was our first conversation, because I was like, oh, this guy seems like too perfect. I was like, what's wrong with you? So he's like, he gave me his testimony about like how he used to struggle with like, suicide and just like, depression. And he was saying how he like went to church and he was like saved and he like has been good ever since. And like God saved him from that. And I really liked how he was like, first of all, like not afraid to just share what happened to him. And I like that he had like a sturdy foundation in God, because like that was important to me, because I don't want to ever like convince a man to like
go to church,
accept God. Yeah.
Go to church.
Yeah, I don't have to like do that. He just has that. So yeah, that one definitely drew me to him. Yeah.
It's important because it's important you said that. Friends and I have been having this conversation lately. This art of this opening up about you, about your life. Why, and we see now in the society, so many of us are so afraid to have these very difficult conversations. Why do you think that is?
I think like if you share certain things, people might like assume you're crazy or just judge you harshly. So I think people don't want to put it out there.
And I get that too. It's like they don't want to, but I came to terms with the fact that, okay, well, it's my story. Everyone have a story. Yeah. My responsibility as a person is to free myself from my past, because oftentimes we tie ourselves to that, and we don't know. We do it for so long that we lose our identity. Yeah. And that become the new identity, but all along it's not really the authentic us. Yeah. It's just that. So I think it's pretty amazing. So how long were you guys dating before you got married? About like a year and a half we did. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. We like knew fully like pretty early on. If he had proposed to me like 2 months later, I'd been like, yeah, okay. Really? Yeah. Yeah. He was just like all around great. So that's awesome. I was wined and dined. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and how long have you been married for? Well, next year, like in May, it's going to be 4 years. So. 4 years. Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of experience out there. You can definitely share some good, solid insight, advice. Yeah. I mean, we look around now, marriage is becoming one of those things. If you find people together for more than 5 years, that's actually pretty good. Yeah. I think the first 5 years is supposed to be like if you can make it past that, then you should be okay. Yeah. 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 But we also see that a lot of marriages aren't working out these days. What would be like some of your advice or tip as to, how to balance that whole thing out? I'd say this, like, I think like with us, we kind of went into it like thinking, okay, we're going to do like traditional kind of roles and stuff like that. And then we just discovered we're not traditional. So we just like bend and like
just, I guess, change certain things with how our household is run to just suit it to us. So I think that's what people need to do is like, yeah, if you have an issue, like, can you compromise? Like, is there something you can change?
Right.
You know, if there's like, I don't know, if your husband wants you to do something and maybe you've never done it before, like, I don't know, I want you to press my shirt. And like, that's important for him for whatever reason. And yeah, so you could easily be combative and be like, well, I'm not a slave or whatever. Or you could just press the shirt because it like makes him happy, right?
Right.
So yeah, you just have to compromise.
And vice versa, he do the same for you, even.
Exactly. Like,
yeah. I guess the bigger picture here is that being able to compromise. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow. That's actually pretty good because, you know, that those are some of the things now. By the way, are you a feminist?
I wouldn't call myself, I don't want to label myself with anything like that.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I don't know, I can't say that I fully agree with a lot of things that are a lot of political things or a lot of, you know, movements that are going on. I can't say I'm 100% in with like stuff that they say. So I don't want to label myself as like a feminist, and there's a lot that goes with it. So
there is a lot.
Yeah.
There is a lot. And sometimes I feel like I wonder if we are losing ourselves now in this whole thing I think men and women, we each have our own strength.
Yes, that's how I kind of look at it. Because sometimes I look at feminism and I'm like, sometimes it's like, seems like women are, yes, you want to be equal with a man, but it's like they're trying to be equal by being like a man. But I'm totally okay with being feminine and like using that feminine to like empower myself.
Right.
So yeah, but I'm a feminine woman, so it kind of works for me. But yeah. And
it's true because, you know, I always tell my friends, I say, like, guys would not go to work. Like, if there was no women on this planet, why are we going to work?
Yeah.
Who do we have to impress?
Play video games.
Right? We sit around and play video game and just be bums all day. Like, we do it because, you know, we want that person to be attracted to us or to attract that individual. But we don't do it just because, you know, that's something that we want to do. We don't sacrifice everything, all of the fun, all the sacrifices that we make to get these cars and these luxury houses and these homes, to say, yeah, we're doing it for my other dude. We don't care about that, but we do it primarily. Yeah.
True. If you go into like a bachelor's house, it's like one chair, one like, you know, just like one plate. Yeah.
That's so
they get
funny.
married, you see like all these things.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right? It's so true. I can relate because a friend of mine was actually talking about that whilst I was in Toronto, and I was like, yo, his mom would come over and be like, you need more photos or pictures here of something, more art, more colors, more something. He's like, no, Mom, I'm not ready for that yet. Right? Yeah. But it's so true. It's so true what you're saying. So, so going back, being from a Jamaican background, did you ever see yourself being where you are now with your artistry and what you represent now? Because you no longer just represent you now. You kind of represent a movement, which you're about to get into, but you represent a whole lot more than just you. Was that intimidating? And, you know?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I could say that I imagined myself to like be on this level that I'm at, like being publicly known somewhat, not like famous, but you know, publicly known a little bit.
You're famous here in Calgary.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, people can Google you now, which
I
is
guess Googleable.
Very cool.
Although one of my goals was to have a Wikipedia, so hopefully I will have that.
Well, it's going to happen now that you said it out in the university. Yeah.
You write that up. But yeah, I don't know if I could imagine this because I never really saw like this route, but I know I wanted to be a successful artist. I just thought like maybe I'd go like the gallery route or just be like an Instagram artist. So yeah, I definitely had that goal in mind, and there is like a little bit of pressure to kind of, I feel like, okay, somebody told me like, oh, you're an artist and you're Black, which is like very rare. And like, I was really surprised by that because I know a bunch of Black artists, so I'm like, what is this? And then I don't know. I guess I feel like we need to usher in more Black artists in the public eye, so that people can just acknowledge that like we're here and we can have our experiences out there. Like we can have Black people, you know, painted up on this, up on the walls, up on this, up on that, and have ourselves just like, in galleries everywhere that like white artists are, like we need to be there too. So yeah, I'd like to help usher that in, and there's like a little bit of pressure there, but I just try to stay true to myself and what I think. And yeah.
Let's get into some of your project. I looked up, I noticed that blog party installation. Let's talk about that for a moment. Let's start with where the name came from and how it came about. How did that opportunity?
Okay, so that opportunity, I'd been going for about like 3 weeks or like a month, just like every night I'd paint on Instagram or draw, and then I'd like put it on IG Live, and then people can watch, and then I'd post it later on. So I'd been doing that for a while, and then somebody saw my work, but they had searched me through like the Alberta University of Arts hashtag. So they found me through that. They liked my stuff, and then they invited me to do this installation, and I didn't know like it would be such a big deal like as what it was afterwards. The company was named Park. So they had partnered with Deerfoot City, and they had this idea of like an outdoor kind of interactive installation. People can go there, hang out, and it's be a good picture or a good spot for like pictures for social media and whatnot. So they bring me in this, and this was a really quick, because when we started, I think it was just 2 weeks. So we were signed, and then we got to look at the spot. They gave us like whatever we were supposed to paint. So my thing was picnic tables. And then there were some benches and the huge like mural that was on the ground, and some like wall decals, like vinyl. And they had an artist doing each of those. And so after that, they gave us the direction that they pretty much wanted like Deerfoot City branding, but in like a creative way. And Deerfoot City came up with the name Block Party, which was good because there's a lot of color blocking involved. So that's kind of where the name was derived from. And then, we submitted our designs, and then they had to approve them, and we had a week to paint them. And we launched that. And that's kind of how that thing went. And it was good. It's really good.
Was that your first big project?
Yeah, that one was a huge project, and that was like what kind of helped me get my name out there. And after that, it was just like project and another project. So that was a big deal for me.
Describe the night before the morning of the project. Did you sleep?
Yes, I did.
You slept like a baby?
Yeah, because like we have a whole week to paint it, right?
Got it.
So, but while we were painting, did I sleep? Not really. Basically would be there from like night till day, just like, or day till night. Yeah, just painting nonstop, go home, sleep, come back, paint. So it was intense, but I wouldn't say I was like nervous or anything, because we had our plans set out, and
How big was the crew member?
It was, so like from Park, there was like 2 people, and then there was 4 artists, and the girl from Deerfoot City, the graphic designer, Courtney. So it was pretty small.